What is the deal, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of That's the Lifestyle. My name is Ramon.
And you goddamn right. It's your boy, Tawann, a.k.a. the Kicks God.
We down a man.
Woo. We back in this bitch, man.
The good Sir Snow is on vacation, so we'll keep the flag rolling.
We handling. Of course, we
How you
bite
feeling,
the
brother?
business as usual. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm trying to work between headphones because I am usually anti-headphone. So I'm trying to, just get everything straight. I got one ear on, one ear off.
Trying to balance it out.
All right, fuck it. We're going to have... Yeah, man. It can get a little hot in here. That's why I'm like, I got my utensils ready. You know what I'm saying? Everything is on the up and up right now. So
today's topic is none other than Apple.
Where we at?
And the whole world upside down. Let me ask you this. I've been trying to tell you and Snow to watch Hamilton, the play on Disney. You didn't get around to it yet, did you?
No, and I'm a little iffy with plays. I haven't added that to my my repertoire of things to watch.
Okay,
but
anyway,
yeah,
here's some context. In the play is about Alexander Hamilton, one of the four founders of America. And one of the songs in the play is called World Upside Down. And this number occurs when the North wins the Civil War. So the premise of the world upside down is just like, holy shit, everything looks different now. Like we don't even recognize the place. Right. That's what it feels like to me right now with the conversation of Apple.
Okay. I see your point. I see your direction. I see your direction.
First off, there's been an interesting turn of events. Not particularly a turn of events, I'm happy to point out, but I have switched over from the Android world to an iPhone 12 Pro Max.
I hold up. I need you to repeat that, sir. I need you to repeat that for the world.
I'm not repeating anything.
So show you right, my man. Show you right. Carry on, son. The flame hasn't risen yet.
I'm sure everyone is like, what?
But I was born
what just
in
happened
the flame.
There? I just got tired of, and it's such a convoluted mess. I can't even say with all certainty I got tired of Android because Google and Android weren't really the number one culprit, right? Like, so for me,
got it.
The older I get, the more you have to lose, right? And security in my digital life is becoming a very big deal. Fam, I was not getting security updates on that Android phone. It's just not happening. And I'm on Samsung, right? So to Samsung's credit, I was getting one or two more updates than I usually got through the life cycle of a phone. But what threw it over the edge is you'll see the new Android announced and it's months later and I still don't have it. And then you start reading shit like, Samsung is doing a test. A beta, like you can't get the beta because I got the AT&T version of it, right? So that don't apply to me. It's just like, son, I'm out of here. And no matter what it is I complain about, which I do have a fair bit of complaining to do about iOS. I'll take that over the bullshit in the Android world. And to be fair, I tried. I was looking for an out, right? So I had. All right, let's say we can go with the Pixel. You go with the Pixel, you get the updates right away. As soon as there's a security update every month, it's in there. Whenever the new feature update comes out, it's in there. The problem is the Pixel phones, by and large, have been trash.
And they've just
Right.
gotten
They're not
trasher.
even flagships anymore. They're like mid-range phones. Like, I'm not.
Son, $600 for a
I don't
phone?
work
Fuck out of here.
12 hours a day for a mid-range phone. Like, what are we talking about here? You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm American,
Yes.
goddammit. This place is supposed to be great. What are you doing to me here?
Yes.
And the way I pay the monthly payment on my phone on AT&T.
Right.
So you remember we went to Best Buy and we saw the Surface, and I was just like, "Oh, this is it."
Yeah, we're plotting on ways how to get out of our fucking
So it would have cost me like $700 to get rid of my Samsung.
Yeah.
What fuck Samsung did I have? It was right here, the S20 5G Pro Max or whatever the fuck they call that.
Yeah, say that fucking 8 times.
So I wasn't really willing to pay that money. And incidentally enough, AT&T, of course, was running a promotion. They'll give you up to $700 credit for the new iPhone.
Yes.
So I literally only ended up paying like $100-something to get out of the Android phone.
And I kind of sort of have a question to that, because you know me, listen, I am engulfed in the ecosystem that is Apple. So I was trying to see how I can, because I saw it. They give you a credit towards your current iPhone or your current phone. And I think that includes
It does include
iPhone.
the old iPhone, yeah.
So if I want the 12, I can get the 12. It just didn't.
So
it
how
didn't
you
register
do it,
with me. So I kind of sort of
is
need it.
when you signed up for the phone, you subsidize the cost over 24 monthly payments. So let's say, I don't know, the phone's $2,000. I don't know, my math is terrible. Let's say you only paid like $600 so far.
So
the remainder of that
right now
is what would
it's
cost
at $600
to get out, because you're pretty much paying off that phone. So AT&T is saying, fam, we got you. We'll give you $700. So you only need to come up with like $200 or whatever that little bit is to get the new iPhone. And I think this is the first year they've done it, or at least I haven't noticed it before.
I think, son, that's
yeah, if you really want to upgrade, and it sucks that they only do these incentives for iPhone, because I would have loved to apply that to the Surface. I would have went with the Surface. But whatever, boo-hoo, this not, I'm on the iPhone now, so I got some problems, B. I got some problems. First, let me start with the good, because before you deliver the or you can, or sure you can,
you goddamn right, it's coming.
So first of all, this is a very difficult thing for me to kind of admit, right? So the Apple that I hated is no longer the Apple of today. And a lot of people don't understand where that disdain comes from. Like, I grew up where, like, my cousin would come get me. He's the one that got me into computers. And we'd go to, like, computer shows and buy the parts and build it and sell it and shit like that. And it was crazy. You could buy a new graphic. We're talking, like, 2000, 2001, 2002.
Early, yeah.
And you'd build your shit and you'd had great pride in your rig and you upgrade shit when you need it and all this. The PC world was great. And then as I became more of a creator, with the Photoshops and all of that, like, a lot of people don't know. Snow will tell you, I was using Photoshop back in high school, like when it was like Photoshop 2 or whatever.
Yeah, that's when it was bootlegged
Still is
all over
the place. You would run into these fuckboys that would be like, "Oh, you use a PC," and you'd be like, "Well, what is that? What does that mean?" Now, my first computer was a Performer 9200, I think it was. It was a Mac, and then my cousin was like, "Yo, that's cool, but like, let me show you this whole other world." So,
yeah, mine was a Power Max. And remember them shit
Yep,
sitting? It was sitting on the side, and I was like, if this will stay here, right? We going over here.
And I never. It wasn't like, all right, we just off that, we over here now. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. But I would get into these conversations with these people, and this was very much the cult of Apple back then. Like, even 10 years ago, when people was like the cult of Apple, like, it wasn't anywhere as strong as it was when I was a teeny bopper. You know what I mean? And that shit was fucking annoying, son.
It was.
Like, I got dragged into a world where I was forced to pick a side, so I picked a motherfucking side, and I stood there, right? And then you started to see shit unfold. Bill Gates was a fucking savage in the business world, and how that shook out, and then it came to this point where I really started to pay attention to not only the product but the leaders and the direction of these things, and that's when I started to realize how dope Bill Gates was. You know, like, there was a switch in him that was like, all right, I'm rich now. Let me use this for some good. And very much so, we were in that like cultish world where you had to pick a side. And I'd see Steve Jobs get up on stage and do his thing, and I'd be like, yo, that's cool, but like, you still blowing smoke up people's ass. You get what I'm saying? And then like I'll never forget this shit, bro. Like, he was bitching and moaning that Bill Gates was knighted and he wasn't. I was just like, what? Yeah. What are we even talking? This man is curing polio in the motherland, and you're selling fucking iPhones with no copy and paste. What are you asking for?
If I can respond briefly, it seemed to me like it was a dick sizing contest between him and Bill Gates. Every time he thinks Steve Jobs thinks he gets a level up, at least to where he is, bam, Bill Gates is just like, he was like 5 steps ahead all the time. And I think that was the ultimate thing between the ultimate dynamic between the two. He just couldn't catch up to Bill Gates.
Bill Gates died. Steve Jobs passed and left us with the fuckboy cult, and I've been fighting ever since. However, I will admit that the Apple I hated, the Apple users I hated, they're not today's Apple users. Apple is to a point now where they damn near sell appliances. These phones are just like, you know what I'm saying? It's just another appliance. It's that baseline. It's that normal. It's that regular. So to really hate Apple as a company, it's getting very difficult to do, because I think they're making some very smart decisions. And I have to remember that me using a product like the iPhone, as an IT professional for over 20 years at this point, me using an iPhone is a very different perspective than my mom. And when you buy a phone, the same phone that my mom buys, there's a lot to be said for how that experience scales. And I can't really expect it to be the end all for the power user. So I had to, I had to sort of be like, oh, all right, cool. Now, I'm on the iPhone, right? And you know this. I've always had an iPhone. My work phones, I always have 2 phones. A lot of people aren't fans of 2 phones, but I believe that after you put your 12 hours in at work, you come in the house, that phone doesn't make it past the living room. You get what I'm saying? You need to be able to detach from work. So I've always kept an iPhone. One, because as an IT professional, I need to know how to support these things. As a technologist, I need to understand these things. But I wouldn't fully commit. It wasn't my main phone. Now I'm being forced to completely live with it. There is no, that shit's crazy. Let me just turn my Android phone on and get shit done. Like, nah, that's not my reality anymore. So, my number one point here is I now own a 5G iPhone 12. Where the fuck is the Corona conspiracists now? Remember I said this in the middle of the pandemic. I thought it was the most distasteful disgusting, annoying, just nasty thing I could have ever seen. You know what's causing corona? The 5G's out here causing. So now that Apple's out here selling everybody a 5G, I've not heard one motherfucker like, no, I'm not buying that. I don't want that 5G in my body. I don't want that corona. It all subsided.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I think it was really isolated, even though it wasn't. And it was somebody, I do, but I don't. I do want to say that somebody was trolling, but I don't want to say it because they got on TV, national TV, and you are a profession, and said what you said. Now,
there were nurses that was spewing that shit in the hospital.
Absolutely.
That was spewing that shit.
So it's like somebody ran with it. They probably had just a little bit of tech savviness, enough to be able to work something technical, but they were like, whoa, where's all of this coming from? Why is this coming from? What's the new hotness currently? 5G. Oh, it has to be 5G. Like, it's just like the Trump situation. Oh, he has to have been they have to be fraudulently tallying votes. It's the same thing. It's like, it's not even conspiracy theory. It's more like, I'm going to say this because it makes sense to me.
And now it becomes gospel.
It makes sense.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking to see that shit. But anyway, a few good things about the phone. I love the design. The last iPhone I owned was the iPhone 4 when it came out. That was I remember Steve Jobs had just passed. I was like, let me just buy this phone to show. And this is me as a technologist showing through like how much I love technology, right? Like, I fucking hated this guy, but cool. I'll contribute. And I bought the iPhone 4 and I had it for a while. And I love that design. Right. And I always spoke about it, even in a lot of our videos. The iPhone 6, 7, 8 design was aight. The new ones, the 10s, the 11s, they were aight. But it's just something about that industrial flat design that I loved. And lo and behold, here it is, fam. It's fucking dope. It feels good. It feels like something Apple would do. I got a new blue color. I'm all on board with the design. No problems there.
Right.
The cameras, Apple never not had great cameras. These cameras are particularly great. But I say that with not a grain of salt, but a more of the same. Because every iPhone camera is always great, right? I don't think there's anyone that ever really truly took a hit. And then there's a great battery life, which I'm excited to see, because coming over from the Galaxy S20 Plus or Ultra, whatever it was, the battery life on that fucking phone was ridiculous. Total confidence. Like, I charged that phone once every 2 days, and it turned into one every 3 days in pandemic world. And that's the same over here. So I didn't really take much of a sacrifice. So, and there's a few other great things about it. I find that iOS, like, I've been digging into iOS shortcuts, or Siri shortcuts on the phone. So there's just some powerful things you can do there. The widgets are cool too. Yeah.
Makes it a very good, not Microsoft Windows phone.
It does a great job at sort of bridging that gap for me, coming from the Android world where widgets are like baseline. So it's one less thing that I don't have to sacrifice. And I appreciate it. And I mean, my widgets are very simple. It's usually just my calendar and weather. So I'm cool over there. There are some things about it that really drives me up the wall, though. Like, for instance,
I want to hear that.
All the Google apps run like shit. There's micro stuttering all over the place. At first, it was the entire phone. It'd be micro jitters. I'm scrolling, and it's like, remember what we would call Android lag? I was getting that on the and I was able to find a lot of posts on like the Mac forums, Mac rumor forums. A lot of them people were complaining, and then an update came out like 2 days after. Speaking of updates, right? This would have never happened on Android. 2 days after, and most of it has subsided. The only issue now I have is Google Apps. So like I use Google News. I noticed a jitter there. Scrolling through YouTube, I noticed a lot of jitter. Annoyingly enough,
Oh yeah.
iOS 14 supports picture-in-picture for video. Doesn't work with YouTube. Fucking annoying, but I think that's a Google thing because Google may be pigeonholing that feature over on Android. So I can't really say that that's a iOS thing, but the one that really fucks with me, like I get upset when I look at the fucking phone, right? So I consider myself a pretty good photographer, and at any given point, I have hundreds of photos on my phone, and I have this one folder that I call Go Live. So when I decide to be active on Instagram, I've got about 500 or 600 images in there that's what I'll post. Like that's how crazy my backlog of images is. Like it's like 2-3 years of work that no one has seen. So when I'm ready, you know, I post in series of threes and stories. If you look at my Instagram, shameless plug at Ramon Trotman. Check your boy out. I would do that. And then any projects that I'm working on, I'll have those photos in their own album or folder. And then, you know, throughout the day or whatever, get some downtime, I'll go in my photos and I'd look at those images just to browse my work. Looking for cohesiveness, looking for places to improve, looking to see how the project's doing. And instead of scrolling through other people's work, I invested that time in my own work. So I'll scroll through my own goddamn pictures. So I gets the iPhone, I loads up the OneDrive. First thing I'm doing is bringing down my Go Live folder, right? 500 and something images. They're just sitting there in a recents folder. And I'm just like, okay. So I create the Go Live folder, copy the images over. They're still in the fucking recent folder. What am I looking at here? What is happening? Right? Like this is fucking annoying. So I'm posting some new content to the LD Instagram accounts. We have the main lifestyles account. That's what we do, like the fashion stuff. We have a car account. We have a gentleman's account where there'll be like cigars and whiskey and watches, right? And these links are around if you guys are interested. You just want to check it out. All these photos are in that recent album. So I'm also preparing, I'm putting some notes down on paper to review the camera. So I'm taking images of stuff, right? And I'm looking back at these images to review and critique and talk about the pluses and minuses of the camera. But I find myself scrolling through 15, 20, 30 images from WhatsApp, images from this app, that app, screenshots. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why do I have to scroll through 30 or 40 images to get to an image I took on the phone? I'm expecting there to be a camera roll folder that separates anything that I've taken on the camera from any other wild shit that exists on the phone. Son, it just doesn't happen this way. And I'm like infuriated every time I launch the Photos app.
Oh, okay. So I'll input what I've learned from Apple and their photo menagerie. So your main photo, every screenshot, everything you do lands in the photos recent folder, right? So how Apple are, I know I said that totally wrong. How Apple are is if you allow, say,
WhatsApp is a good one.
WhatsApp to access your camera and your photos, your photos app. So there becomes a sharing agreement between Apple and their Photos app and WhatsApp. So if you take because you could take pictures with WhatsApp. If I take a picture with WhatsApp, according to the agreement, that picture will now be aggregated to a folder that says WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Right? So, because Apple has said it's okay for WhatsApp to communicate with the Photos app. So now you took a picture with that, that's where it lands. However, we're going to take it a step further. When you are using, let's say, I don't know, Photoshop,
Lightroom.
the Lightroom. So it doesn't really work well with Lightroom. So anything that I've taken with the device and then ported over to Lightroom to make any adjustments, and then I want to save it now, it doesn't go to a Lightroom folder because I never took the picture with Lightroom. So I have to, in order for you to have those areas, let's say even Instagram. So if you set Instagram to say, hey, I want all my pictures that I take with Instagram saved. All right, so that app now communicates with Apple's app, Photos app, and says, hey, can I save any photos in your photo? Yes, you can. Boom. So now Apple is going to aggregate any photos taken with Instagram and put it in an Instagram folder. But it doesn't often
it's very
work.
it's
that
very,
is the big problem.
So like, all right, here's the big thing. When you open the Photos app, right? The first thing you land on, I'm opening the shit right now. The first thing you land on is something called library. Go fuck yourself. Because when you call something library, it insinuates that it's well organized. Nothing about the term or concept library tells me this is just a fuck you mess of everything in my phone. You understand what I'm saying? You get what I mean? So that's number one. And then they went and put all this crazy effort into being able to zoom in and zoom out and sort the library, right? This big fuck fest of images by day or month or year. Like, fuck you, I don't care. Like, fam. So that's number one. Number fucking two.
Okay.
What you're saying is correct. So when I export images from Lightroom or take a picture with Instagram, Lightroom will create its own folder under albums.
Yes. If you take
if I
take
export,
the picture
edit and export
with
to
Lightroom.
photos, it'll create a folder called Lightroom. I don't have a beef with that.
Yeah.
I don't have beef with that. That sounds about right. It's the same way it works on Android. That's okay to me. What's not okay to me is by default, it doesn't create these things because Android figured it out. iOS before 13 figured it out, and Apple, for whatever reason, went a different direction. And then here's the part that really pissed me off. Like this one kind of like, this is the one that kind of threw me over the edge. So if I, again, going back to this camera roll thing, right? There's no, whatever. If I download 500 images from OneDrive on my phone, that's on me. That's
It's going
on me.
into
I
the
need to
camera
go
roll.
in there and say where I'm
it's
putting
on-
these images. That's fine. Got no beef with that. But whenever I take a picture with the goddamn camera on the phone, it should be in a camera folder. A camera roll is what it used to be called. Now,
yeah, but they're calling it recents.
That's my problem.
now.
And recents is not things that are taken only with the camera. It's everything on the fucking phone.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think you're asking a lot of
Nah, this is not. No.
things.
So if I open Lightroom and I say to Lightroom, I want to import some photos to edit. Jesus H. Christ. Lightroom has It says, would you like to import from the camera roll?
From camera roll.
What the
yeah.
Son, is this fucking for real? And then, but you got to understand, I'm very organized when it comes to my digital life, right? And you could say, oh, you're a power user, all that, go fuck yourself. Fine. Son, I have Lightroom, I have OneDrive set to back up my images. So OneDrive on Android and any iOS version before 13, I'd say to it, back up the camera roll. So when I go to my OneDrive, if I ever show you my OneDrive, I've got years. We're talking going back to HTC days of images that were taken from every camera of every phone that I've owned. And it's just those pictures. Now, in my OneDrive, in my camera roll backup, I've got images from WhatsApp of naked fucking women, stupid memes, fucking clown videos, all it, son, it's creating havoc in my world. And this is from a company who prides themselves on controlling the experience. Number one, don't tell me you don't understand the experience because you just made a switch away from it. Number two, I don't want you to control the experience if this is the dumb shit you're doing. Son.
Listen, I understand what you're saying, and coming from, I am nowhere, I'm like a beginning photographer. So, but I am a structured person. So when it comes to structure, and the premise of what you're saying, how Apple communicates with one thing versus, there you go. Glyphindale?
Some light
Glenfiddich?
12-year-old.
Yeah, well, fuck you, because I have none. I got to go in there and get some
social
fucking
distancing,
Jim
bro.
Beam.
You know?
But, it's how Apple chooses to word things. Apple never wants to go the way of everyone else. Everyone says it's a camera roll. Apple says, no, it's recent. So when you tell every other fucking system, hey, every other system is saying, hey, where is Apple camera roll? So I can tie it in nicely and pull from it. They're like, I don't see it. But Apple is saying,
just put it in that basket with everything else.
You're going to act like I act and put everything that comes into the Apple's recent, and that's going to be your recent. It is Apple saying, fuck the norm. It's going to be this way. And if you want it any other way,
might I point out, sir, that Apple is the one who called it camera roll. Every other company calls it DCIM folder.
Yeah, but let's not start with the fucking DCIM.
There is a DCIM when you plug the phone in, which makes it even fucking worse.
Yeah. So it's like now, which is funny, because when you plug your Apple device into the computer, and you do get DCIM, you get like it's like storage or a straight DC. It's something like that. But there is a DCIM folder. All of the fucking pictures that you took that you want to port from that DCIM folder is there. It says, okay, cool. It is there, but it's not there. It'll never say DCIM on an Apple product. I don't know, son. Hey, listen, these are the woes of a R. Trotman
and I got one
Apple
more
device.
Why in the fuck do I have to hit the symbol 1, 2, 3 button to get to a fucking comma? Why? On a regular phone, one that is not controlled by Tim Apple, the comma is to the left of the space bar and the period is to the right of the space bar. Why do I need to completely switch the menu to get to a comma, fam?
I'm going to say this very cynically, because Apple felt the need to put a photos icon, an app store icon, an emoji icon,
Apple
an
Pay.
Apple Pay icon, a GIF, all of that shit, instead of putting numbers up there.
Let's not. The end result is kicking and screaming, I am here. So whatever the fuck happens, I need to shut my fucking mouth and mosey on down the road like everybody else.
Yo, son, you wanted this. This is what I like, son. It was this or the fucking Pixel, the Google Pixel,
and it wasn't gonna be that. It was not gonna be
test. The pick, or a OnePlus.
So
nothing.
Going back
nothing
to Hamilton, the entire fucking world upside down. Cause I'm a long ways from the motherfucker a few years ago. I wouldn't be dealing with this. I'd have went back to the Apple store and threw this shit at the first genius I saw. Fuck you. You figure it out. You a genius, right? But we're not done with the Apple conversation, son.
Yeah, we 36
we're not done with the Apple conversation,
tipping
son.
the iceberg, son.
Leveraging what I said earlier, that the Apple that exists today, it is very difficult to hate them. Apple's been going through this stint with Intel where they've been taking some L's because Intel's been taking L's, and Apple's just like, yo, what are you fucks doing over there? Right? Not only were the chips not meeting the performance they said they were going to say, but almost every year there's new vulnerabilities, and the only way to fix the vulnerability is a patch that's going to cost you some percentage of performance, and yada fucking yada. So Apple says, fuck you, I'll do it myself.
That's what Thanos said.
And I mean, whatever. I laughed like everybody else who hates Apple. Yeah, all right, motherfucker. And Apple last year sometime said, by the way, new Apple chips come in and they're going to be ARM. Now, I can't remember if we spoke about it on any of the podcasts, but there was a lot of skepticism in the industry and for me personally, because for those of you not in the know, the PC world, the desktop computing, the laptop world is very different than the mobile world, meaning your iPads, your iPhones, your Android phones. So when you buy a computer, a desktop, a laptop, a PC, or a Mac, they usually run on AMD or Intel, and it's what we call traditional x86 or x64 architecture. Right? Big boy processors that require big boy heating and cooling and blah, 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 blah. ARM is the other side of the coin. That's what's been in our phones for years. And in fact, Intel had a chance to make the processors for iPhones, and they passed on it because they couldn't see a world where ARM processor was as powerful as a quote unquote real processor. Right? And then something happened a few years ago where I think it's when Apple revealed the A10 chip or whatever that was, or A7. Motherfuckers was like, wait, what? This chip was so much more powerful than every other phone on the market. And what that related to is the A whatever processor that Apple was using was so powerful that 3 years down the line, your phone would still be a powerful phone. That's how far ahead it was. Right. Versus Android, where it's your new Snapdragon processor, and next year you can't run Instagram. That was layman's terms what we were looking at. So when they went and announced, oh yeah, by the way, the new Macs are gonna run an ARM processor, it was kind of like, wait, what? I mean, goddamn, son, I know your shit's powerful, but how powerful are you really talking? Fam, they released these M1 processors. And by the way, this is I lost some sleep trying to figure out how to explain this to people. And I'm not a very technical person because machine architecture is a very different fucking world, right? Like it's a lot to understand. I still don't understand everything about it, but the very simplified version of it is an ARM processor is an oversimplified version of a real processor. Now, think about it this way. You're in the house and your wife says, "Can you get me a glass of water?" There's a few things that has to happen.
Right.
A few instructions, right? You got to get up. First, you got to understand what she's asking. You got to figure out, how am I going to do this? Then you do it. So you get up. You walk from the living room to the dining room to the kitchen. You get a cup. You pour the water. Then you reverse that. You go back from the kitchen to the dining room to the living room and you hand her the water. That's what old school processors does. ARM simplifies that. He's going to say, yo, she wants water. We're going to put the water in the living room where she sits. So you don't got to go too far to get the water. It kind of don't make sense, right? But that's kind of how it goes. And then Apple, with their philosophy, took it even farther. So picture a world where she says, I want water and juice and a slice of cake and heat up the food and bring me the magazine and can you charge my laptop? So you got to do all these things at once. But your hallway is only meant for so much back and forth, right? You can't do all these things super fast, so you get some help. Yo, my man, yo, Ramon, you go get the water. Snow, you go get the juice. I'll charge the laptop, and then we'll keep checking back.
And we'll all be on skates
and we'll be
while
bumping
doing
into each other because we're in the same hallways and we're going back and forth. Apple says, fam, that's not effective. Why don't we make the hallways larger so more people can fit? So when someone asks something of you, you can get more motherfuckers in there. And on top of the fact that they don't have to travel nearly the distance they did before, and you can get more of them, here we are with the M1 processors.
Yeah,
I'm just
in a
like,
nutshell.
what the fuck is happening? And then people started reviewing these things. People started to say, yo, these things are really performing better than what Apple let on.
Well, yes and no. Yes, because they no one has full outright numbers when it comes to
benchmarks.
What do you call it? Benchmarks, because Apple didn't use numbers. They have a bar graph, no numbers. They have line charts, no numbers. They're just showing what it was with an Intel processor, with an AMD processor, and then
but that's
with
enough,
the M1. Got it. It's enough to convince people, but it's not enough to say it's better. Here's what I said. Here's my 2 cents. They never showed a computer. They showed the processing power, but when it comes to processing or uploading videos while doing some other off the wall shit, while I don't know, playing Angry Fucking Birds, while surfing Instagram, so now you're asking more of this new processor, and I get it has two slots for RAM. Got it. And maybe it can. But what happens when you need more processing power, but you just bought this laptop, this MacBook Pro, with the RAM integrated into the fucking processor? So now where we're going to now talk to about, because this is a great processor, but what is your upsell to having a computer where you can't
Okay,
swap out
let's
the RAM.
dissect that. I understand your perspective. Now, the people who are doing the test that I needed to see are doing things I do.
Yeah.
So there are
Right.
there are creatives out there that has the new. This thing comes in 3 new products Apple sells currently on the shelves right now. You've got the MacBook Air, you've got the MacBook
Air, the
Pro, and you've got the desktop Mac, iMac, whatever the fuck they whatever they call that thing, right?
iMac,
Now,
yeah.
people are getting the 8 GB model. Let's not harp on the numbers yet. People are getting the 8 GB regular MacBook Air, right? And they're doing things like they have DaVinci Resolve, which is one of the industry standard video editing apps, very demanding. They've got Premiere, very demanding. They've got Lightroom. All these things are open at once. And
but are they processing?
I've seen video of shit rendering 4K footage. I've seen shit of and what they're doing is they're taking their last year Intel MacBook Pro and they're doing the exact same thing. It is a joke how much faster
I did see that
M1 now. That's why I say we have to rethink how we approach how valuable the numbers are. At this point, it's not about benchmarking. And to be fair, benchmarking never meant shit to me because companies been cheating at benchmarking for years. It's like Volkswagen. Remember Volkswagen did that scumbag shit? That when they know they're testing for emissions, they wired up the cars to understand when they're being tested and show totally different results. And they got caught. PC companies has been doing that for years with these benchmark tools. However, all I care about, I don't care the numbers behind it. Can I do what I need to do better than I could before? This is the case. Now, we need to recalibrate how we look at computer infrastructure here. I'm sorry, not infrastructure, architecture. In the Intel world, you have, and this is just how x64 processors work, the old school stuff. You have your processor. You know, you got to cool it down, put a fucking heat sink on it, pipe out the fans, make sure it stays cool, because the minute, and this was a problem with Apple, right? Why their i9 laptops were always garbage, because they would get so fucking hot that the processor would throttle itself. It would cut back its performance so as not to overheat. So you would never get the true benefit of the processor anyway. That was a problem for Apple. Like we could do.
Don't talk about the fucking AMD processors.
You know,
that
I don't
were
know
in
if
there.
they ever had AMD shit. I think I had AMD GPU, but you had a processor. Then you had your RAM. Then you had your motherboard that connected it all, and then you had a GPU that's on there. So remember the analogy of getting water, right? All of these things were in different rooms. So when you wanted to do something, it had to leave the CPU to go through to the GPU to come back and drop something off in RAM or drop something off in storage and then report back to the CPU. And the CPU says, all right, cool, let's go through with the next. That all takes time. And the more of it you do, the hotter it gets. And the hotter it gets, the less it performs, blah, 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 blah. What Apple did here with their ARM processor, the RAM, the CPU, and the GPU is all on one fucking chip. Nothing has to go anywhere to get anything done. So in reality, what we're seeing is, and I'm oversimplifying this, the new MacBook Air with the M1 processor with only 8 gigs of RAM has roughly the same performance and efficiency as a traditional laptop with 16 gigs of RAM. The problem is, how do we benchmark this now? It's kind of like benchmarking the horsepower in a fucking Civic versus an 800 horsepower car. Those are two completely different things. You understand what I mean?
Right.
So it's very good on Apple, first of all, right? Because I've been looking at an iPad for a very long time. I have the OG iPad Pro, the 12-inch joint, the one that's comically large. And I do some editing on there. And had it not
I just got one for my wife.
This shit is
she
ridiculously large.
12.9.
And what I will say about that, the performance is outstanding. And this is the OG. It's like 3 years old at this point, 3 or 4 years old. And so much so, I've been looking at the new iPads and I've been saying to myself, I can change up my photography workflow and do everything I need off this fucking iPad. And then here comes Apple. They were already challenging an entire Intel architecture for me. And then here they come with this new M1 shit and they blow it out the water. And the reason I tell you, look at the fucking MacBook Air first, because the MacBook Air is the slower of the two. Traditionally speaking, if you want to run Photoshop in Lightroom and edit 4K video, you don't get the MacBook Air. You get the Pro. All of these things can now be done on the MacBook Air. Interestingly enough, the only difference between the Pro and the Air, the Pro has a fucking fan. And everyone has been saying they can't even get the fucking fan to kick on. Which means that
are you sure?
The Pro has a fan?
Because
they can't even...
I could have sworn they said they said now it doesn't.
But they can't even run the process. They can't get the fucking M1 chip to break a sweat enough to where it says, whoo, I gotta cool this down. Turn that fan on, fam. This is a different fucking world. You understand what I'm saying? At the same price as last year's fucking hardware. What's super interesting to me is Apple has finally made it to the point where they have the entire industry looking fucking shitty. Because AMD is out here claiming the throne because Intel's fucking up. Right? Intel can't get it together. AMD is running away with the spoon. However, AMD's running away with the spoon in a world that doesn't even fucking matter anymore. Apple has clearly showed that the future is ARM processors. They're essentially selling motherfuckers phones with
cell
fucking keyboards on them. And the industry can't even compete with that. That's just mind-blowing to me. This is a problem for the PC world. And let me put some perspective for you, right? My work laptop is the Surface Pro X. The Surface Pro X runs an ARM architecture because Microsoft's been at this for a while. So you know that old mantra, it's new when Apple does it. So Microsoft been trying this for a while. You remember the Surface RT? You remember we took our ass on release date to Times Square to cop that? Son, Microsoft's been doing it for a while. The problem with that is none of the apps work. That's the caveat of it. So the Surface Pro X is in a much better place. It's much better. A lot of apps now work, but I can tell you it's not running anywhere close to the power that Apple just... And there's a lot of reasons, right? Because Microsoft is asking Qualcomm to do this special chip. Qualcomm is saying, all right, I'm going to take what I'm doing over here and copy and paste over here and kind of make it work for you. Apple is like, we don't got to deal with that. I know what I need and I make what I need. It's a totally different fucking ball game.
One of the things that they were also touting is the fact that now we're under Intel processors on MacBooks, MacBook Pro or Air. There were apps that were incompatible with those laptops because they were basically under the architecture of an M1 type of
you got
processor.
It backwards. You're correct, but you got it backwards.
Now
they work on the old Intel shit, not the new M1 shit.
Right, but these apps now work on the M1.
That's my point.
So it's like whether it was a cell phone app or a standard, everything works. And I'm like, wait, like dude was running. What the fuck was he? He was using, I want to say, some app that you can't get on a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air, and it was working on the
so
MacBook
essentially
M1.
What they're doing, because the ARM architecture is so much different it's kind of like, this is a far left analogy, but it's kind of like the Intel stuff is combustion engine, and the new MacBook M1 processors and ARM architectures are electric.
Is
so it's kind of like the same parts you Tesla would put on a electric engine are quite different from the same parts you would put on a combustion engine. So let me show you how fucking crazy this whole thing is. And this is when it clicked for me. I tried to install Photoshop on my Surface Pro X, which is an ARM processor. It didn't even, Adobe was like, the fuck are you doing? We don't support that. So I had to hack this shit on there. It ran like shit. It barely ran. I wouldn't even say it ran. It launched. I was able to launch Photoshop. Can I open a file and zoom in? No. Apple figured out how to emulate this stuff on their fucking M1 processor, so much so that people can't even tell that it's emulation. You get what I'm saying?
I didn't even know it was emulation. I thought it was native.
That's how powerful these fucking chips are. Because usually, think about it this way, right? When you think about emulation, we all think about like gaming. So you want to play Mario Kart 64, you got to get a Mario Kart emulator for your PC, right?
Emulator.
On our computers today, we can run those no problem because our computers, our GPUs are so fucking strong. But that same emulator, if you put it on a $600 laptop, it's going to be like, the fuck are you doing? I don't have enough power to run my shit and then act like I'm running that shit. Somehow, Apple figured it out to not only run my shit, but run that shit. And you can't notice the difference. That's fucking wild, son. I gotta give it up. And the scary part is Intel is in such a fucking shitty place. I don't know when they'll be able to get it together to answer this. And because of that, this is really going to drag Microsoft behind. Microsoft is reliant on these fucking, because I don't think Qualcomm or any other people out there are going to invest in a partnership to figure it out on the behalf of Microsoft the way Intel would. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that this is another leapfrog for Apple and their PC, not PC line, because I don't know if you can.
It is. They are PC, yeah.
It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like or computer line. So what I mean and what I'm trying to say by what I'm saying is, for now, let's just say everyone is head over heels over this M1 chip. And it's looking like that's what it's going to be, because it's such a reliable and such a efficient chip over an Intel or an AMD. AMD over Intel. Cool. So now what it does is I think it looks really, really bad for AMD over Intel, because now since AMD is number 2, we can argue that, but I think AMD, all things considered, would be number 2 if this M1 chip is slated to be number 1. So now, because of AMD's kind of sort of their resolve to be where they are at this current moment, it allows Intel to say, all right, we'll take a step back and because our target now isn't
that's great
AMD at number 1. Our target is
right. Apple. So AMD is worried about fucking Intel. Intel's like, nah, I want a piece of Apple.
Right. Right. AMD is, I would say, I would go out on a limb to say AMD is probably worried about Apple because of their success with everything. And here they go now. Oh my God, they got a goddamn chip to rival our shit. The only thing that we can tout is it's highly likely that Apple's M1 chip won't make it to
Absolutely
anything
not.
else. However, that's it. What it does is it kind of sort of drives. It's trying. Apple is trying to pull people to their ecosystem in their computing world, but AMD has been so focused on Intel that they missed Apple, and now Apple is going to
Intel missed Apple too, though.
And they did, but it because Apple was never really a threat until now.
AMD did that to themselves.
And now
Intel
it's like
did that to themselves.
Right, but Intel, I can say without a doubt that Intel I'm not going to give it to them next year. I probably wouldn't even give it to them.
I think they got 3 years to answer this.
I'd say 4 or 5 years. I'd say by 2024, 25.
And I'm not sure that's not too long, fam.
It's not. It took Apple fucking...
What I'm saying is, as a technologist,
right.
My next PC, my next laptop, whatever I buy, at this point, is probably going to be Apple. Not my gaming rig. My next laptop or whatever is probably going to be Apple. Like, I can't ignore... At this point in my life, and you know this, right? Like, I've given up... I've swayed on a lot of my technology morals. Because at the end of the day, there's a point where I'm doing myself a disservice by not staying ahead of the curve, or at least on the curve. I think Apple is going to get my money now. And I'm not sure that when Intel shows up to the party, it'll actually matter. Yeah, it's fucking rough. I got a goddamn
rough
iPhone.
For Intel.
You know what I'm saying? Like, son, the whole fucking world.
Yo, welcome.
Upside down, son.
Welcome. Yeah, and one fucking
and it's crazy. If Steve Jobs was alive, one or two things. Either we would have arrived here 5 years ago, or this blow might have been so much more devastating. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it would have probably. I don't think it would have arrived here already. I think it would this blow to everyone else. Like when Tim Cook does it, it's like, oh, here's Tim Cook again. Well, let's see what he got. Oh shit, yeah, he got something. But when Steve Jobs did it, it was like, oh boy, god damn it, what do we got to deal with now? Look, you know what I'm saying? So it's big for Apple. I can say it's definitely a big win for Apple.
Don't you pretend like you don't have
all
Apple shit in your house, sir.
Hey, listen, Google, it's not my fault.
Change the lights to Apple blue. Wow, son. All right. Okay.
I told you, son. I got my troll be gone. Spray. Where is it? My troll be gone spray is somewhere in here.
You'll slip up. You'll turn it back up one day.
Yeah, nah, not right now.
I'm tipping my hat to Apple. I am tipping my fucking hat to Apple.
Yeah. I give it to him. I give it to him. This is big for them.
Let's wrap this up. A whole hour talking about Apple. Not uncommon. At least we're not bashing them for an hour. That's different for us. Well, different for me.
Hey, it's still fuck Apple, but we just say it. With Apple
like Snow would say, it's the obligatory fuck Apple. You know what I mean? But man. You guys know where to find these episodes. We are on
sure do.
We're on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your lifestylesdefined.com/podcast is where you'll find us. Any last words, sir? I
I
do
want to
too.
say fuck Apple. I did say fuck Apple, but it's a
Shit
little
hit
bit
different.
less. It's a little bit less slap.
Yeah.
Is what did the
Slap.
five fingers say to the face? You know what I'm saying? Slap.
My name is Ramon.
I'm rich, bitch. I'm rich, bitch. It's your boy Tawann, aka the King.
We out of here, man. Peace.
Deuces.